Hey there, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I'm Justin, and I'm just a regular employee at Sam Goody.
I'm Nico, and I am the co-director with Snoop Dogg for Fier Street 42069, the new cyberpunk horror hellscape.
And I'm Dan, neutral.
I'm also particularly fucking proud of that one.
That was a good one.
And we're here today to discuss Fier Street Part 3. That's right, we're back once again. It's a three-peat. We're here to finish off this trilogy. So once again, this was directed by Lee Janiak, starring Kiana Madeira as Dina/Sarah Fier, Olivia Scott Welch as Sam/Hannah Miller, Ashley Zuckerman as Nick Goode/Solomon Goode, Gillian Jacobs as Adult Ziggy, and Benjamin Flores Jr. as Josh/Henry. So we pick up where we left off at Part 2, where Dina reunites Sarah Fier's hand with her body. When she does so, she's transported back to 1666, where Sarah Fier now bears a likeness to Dina, along with several other members of the town, taking the appearance of modern Shady-Siders. Wow. Sarah Fier is a woman in the small community of Union, and that night, all the village youths are planning to have a night party in the woods. Nico, the full moon rises.
Yeah, sure does, because, linear nature of time and all that. So before the party, Sarah and her friends head to the house of an old crone known as the Widow to gather some hallucinogenic berries because, hell yeah. Sarah finds an old tome full of evil devil worship and magic. Like, literally, that's exactly what's in the book. And the Widow tells her to beware the devil. Not like that, but she tells her. And Sarah and her friends then head to the party where she has a moment of forbidden love with Hannah, who looks like modern day Sam. But they're seen by a resident of the town. Shock and awe and homophobia. The next morning, Hannah's father has lost his damn mind and is speaking in tongues. Word of Sarah's tryst with Hannah is spread at this point, and the two are shunned by the town and are blamed for bringing the devil, starting the movie's witch hunt.
Hopefully things get better. Right, Dan?
Not this time. Sarah meets with Solomon Goode and confides in him, and Solomon tells her that she did not bring the devil, as you can't actually bring the devil accidentally.
No mulligans on the devil.
Yep. Hannah's father sequesters himself in church with 12 children, and when the town enters, they find that he has killed them all.
It's worse than it sounds, folks. It's worse than it sounds.
Pretty bad. Solomon kills him with a pitchfork, thankfully. The town is then hit with a blight, and all the food has gone bad, and the town decides that he was bewitched, and that Sarah and Hannah are responsible. They capture Hannah, and Sarah flees to the widow, deciding that she will make a deal with the devil to save Hannah.
I just want to say, I know that whole murderation part was really dark, but I'm really proud of myself for using the word sequester.
It was a good word.
That was a good one.
I'll take my moment of recognition, but carry on.
Definite SAT word.
Carry on, Nico.
All right, so I don't know if I'm going to have any of those SAT words in here, but gosh darn, I'll try. So when Sarah arrives at the widow's shack, she finds the tome missing, and the widow has her throat cut. The town is hunting her at this point, so Sarah flees and heads to Solomon Goode's house. He had previously said that, you can always trust me, you can always come to me if you need. And at that house, Sarah finds a secret tunnel! And it leads her to an evil-ass chamber with the tome in the middle. Solomon enters and he states that he is the one who made the deal with the devil, sacrificing one person every generation who will then become a deranged killer in exchange for the prosperity in the town. He then cuts off Sarah's hand and brings her to town. At which point, the town captures them. The town holds Sarah and Hannah, and Sarah wrongfully confesses to being a witch to save Hannah. She then tells Solomon that she will make him pay and show everyone what he truly is. But she's still killed. Her friends move her body and give her a proper burial, though, which is a nice gesture. And we then flash to 1994, and Nick Goode approaches Dina and her brother, Josh. Given what she saw from 1666, because, again, she was experiencing all this at the end of the first movie, Dina surmises that Sarah Fier is actually not evil. Let's get a point tally there for Justin and Dan. And that it is Nick Goode who is terrorizing the town. They They got to do him. They got to kill him. They don't have to do. They just got to kill him. They got to kill him dead. Together with Josh, Ziggy, and Martin, they head to the mall for a final showdown against Nick.
Well, now that we've clarified they have to kill him, Dan, how do they go about that?
So Nick brings the Shady Side Killers, and
That's the other movie.
the group engages in combat. Nick is injured, and he retreats underground, with Dina in hot pursuit and Sam chasing her. Sam attacks Dina, but Dina is able to temporarily bring her to her senses before knocking her out. She fights Nick in the room with the beating heart thing that we saw in part 2, and she manages to get him to touch it, which shows him a flashback of all of his victims. This stuns him, allowing Dina to stab him, killing him, and releasing the curse once and for all.
I have a theory of what that is also before we get into anything else, but no. I'll save it.
Save that.
Right. Save it.
So now the movie ends with a happy epilogue, showing our surviving protagonists living a good life now that the curse has been broken. All is not well, though, as a mysterious stranger is shown stealing the evil tome from the underground lair. The end.
All right. So, Nico, I know you got a theory on hand, but before we get to that, let's talk about the classic DOTD talking points, shall we? How's this movie look, Dan?
It looks great. I mean, kind of as we've said for the last couple of installments, the cinematography, the quality of the film, the color grading, everything is on par with the rest of them.
How'd you feel about it, Nico? How's it look?
I loved it. I really, really dug it. And this is something that we're going to talk about in a little bit, and you might have surmised. There is a pretty big tonal and visual shift halfway through the movie. And I personally think that the film nails both of aesthetics. That being the sort of like neon 1994 time and the more barren, almost the Vitch-y vibes in the 1666 joint. I thought it looked really good.
So I actually have a complaint. Odd, but I do.
So it
Color me
starts.
fucking shocked.
So it begins.
This is earlier than I was expecting. Boy, howdy, lads. Buckle in.
All right. So for all you peasants out there, I watched this movie in... What's so funny, Nico?
Your candor here, all you peasants, as if we're some sort of mongrel trash beneath your
Mans
supremacy.
gets a new TV and has big shoes now.
Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry.
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that. So I was watching the movie in HDR,
Mm-hmm.
and I found the beginning part in 1666 to be too fucking dark. And at first I thought this was just like an HDR thing, so I swapped back over. I watched it on a different screen. Like, I just found it to be very, very, very dark. And I get it. There's no lights in 1666.
They ain't got street lights, fam.
So ho, it would be dark. But nah, I felt like it was like just a little bit too dark for my liking.
Bro, you seen clouds before?
Yeah, I've been in one. But what I'm saying is,
Been in a cloud?
yeah,
You airbender looking motherfucker.
I've been on
You
cloud
ain't even
nine.
got the hair for it.
Bro, tell me I'm not. Draw an arrow on my forehead right now, make me ang, bitch. But the point being is, I found it to be dark. Otherwise, I liked, again, the cinematography from the 1994 bit, and as always, the angles and, framing and whatnot is always pretty good. I just didn't like the dark. It was too dark in 1666, for my tastes. But moving on to the sound, Dan, did we come correct with the sound?
Yeah, again, I think it held up to that. I like how when we switch back to 1994, kind of like what Nico was saying with the visuals, the audio follows and we get more of a modern soundtrack. We get The Offspring. Yeah, they played an Offspring song. They had a good soundtrack in there. And then I guess for the first half, I guess it sounded 1666-ish, I guess, right?
Well, I was going to slide in real quick with the complaint.
Sounded pretty sexy to me.
I thought they were going to have more artists from 1666.
Oh, yeah,
personally.
they missed a good opportunity.
Yo, deadass, go onto YouTube and type in, like, oldest hymn in the world. They got shit from ancient Babylon on there. So don't tell me I'm fucking around. But
Okay, you're not wrong about that, though. It's dead ass up there. Go listen to it.
the point...
It's all one long goddamn prepositional phrase.
But no, I agree. I thought that the soundtrack was on point. I liked the sound as well. I thought the sound design was good. Nico, I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, no, it's fucking tops. It's not something where the film is going to be known for its sound effects, but it just sounds really good.
All right, fair. So, Nico, lace us with that theory, sir. What were you going to say?
All right, so follow me here.
Mm.
This is something that we see just spewing forth detritus and gunk and this black ichor.
This is the heart thing, right?
Yeah. So we see all of that stuff coming out there, and it starts with Solomon Goode, and it's part of this ritual that has to do with the sort of the continuation of the curse upon the town. So QED, that is a ritualistically possessed prolapsed asshole.
Oh,
I cannot believe that I
thought-
took time out of my day to consider your theory.
yo, you just got trolled, Justin. I just want to put it on record that you just got trolled.
Yeah.
I mean, Nico, you know,
This is payback for everything you're about to say in this episode.
Oh, how the
You know-
tables have tabled.
the punishment will be swift. The reckoning will be severe.
Good.
That's all I have to say. So,
Okay.
one thing I want to cover, and first off,
Yeah, transition back from that motherfucker.
I mean, where do you go from prolapse
Well,
to
after
asshole?
that ass talking point, let's go on to that.
So, well, this one's not making it very far, but
This is making it as far as it can.
After this shit show, let's talk about something good.
so Nick Goode being evil. To quote, "Good is evil." Can I just say I audibly booed when
I did too. I
when that
did
line
too.
was spoken into the mists? And
I didn't boo, but I had a solid bruh.
how do we feel about that reveal about Nick Goode actually being evil? And I guess when you really sit down and think about it, was there anyone else who could have been evil aside from him?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So
Unless they introduce a new character in this one.
how do we
But,
feel about him as an
like-
antagonist, generally speaking?
Personally, I feel like it cheapens part of the second movie, and I just really, really wish that Ziggy was the one who finally killed him.
Mhm.
Like, I really think she deserved that shit.
I could see that. Yeah.
I have not one. So first, I thought it was real interesting how in the second movie, Ziggy was like, "Don't trust Nick Goode." And then in this one, she was like, "But I just called Nick Goode." And I was like, "Wait, what? You just told them don't trust him." And then I guess you did. I guess, you like went over those ancient memories from back in the day and like your heart burned for him or something. I don't know. Winter Fire, my heart burns there too. But the point being is I'm not 100% sure that I feel quite as strongly as you do, Nico, about it cheapening the second movie. I will say it raises a question a little bit, but I don't know. Once we deduced that Fier was not going to be the big bad of this, he was the only logical choice left.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of something where it was like, it had to be. It had to be. But Dan, real quick, you share the thought line there, or how do you feel about it?
I think I agree more along with you, Justin. I don't feel too strongly about it. I thought that reveal was fine. It makes sense, but it wasn't like I called exactly what was going to happen kind of moment. But it was like, yeah, it makes sense that he's the bad guy. It wasn't a big surprise or anything to me. But I do like that he had an ancestral history
Mhm.
there. So there's a little bit more depth to it than just, yeah, I'm a fucking bad guy.
Agreed,
you know?
agreed.
Duh. Boo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
And another thing that Nico talked about, Nico with his foresight of the future, this movie is actually two movies. It's Fear Street, 1666, but it's also Fear Street 1994 Part 2.
358 over 2
Capcom
days.
better, I was going to say, Capcom better watch out because they're catching up on the superlatives here.
Yeah.
So how do we feel about this kind of, it is unexpected because they don't tell you in advance. So how do we feel about the split where half of the movie is kind of back in 1666 and then another part of it is split into the year of our Lord 1994?
I think I'm glad that it happened like that because I was a little disappointed in the second movie that we didn't have more of the modern timeline. And I'm glad that we got a significant chunk of the modern timeline. And it wasn't like the last 10 minutes was the switch or anything like that. So I like how it worked, and it was pretty abrupt, but I kind of think it worked all right.
Nico, how you feel?
I really dig it. Something that made me like it even more was just the fact that it was divided, I think, so cleanly in half really helped the pacing for each part of each half of the show, or movie. It made things feel more urgent and more present when they were happening instead of having perhaps a longer suspenseful buildup that you would have gotten in an actual prestige horror that 1666 is sort of emulating there, or the folk horror aspect. Or similarly, you might have had more just trite world building in the neon slasher that 1994 is kind of emulating. But by having both parts be kind of shorter than they would have been on their own, I feel that they got to shine with the strengths.
Mm, I kind of agree. Kind of. So
Okay, we take those. We take those.
here's my thing. Listeners will recall my beef with the fact that the entirety of the second movie was basically a flashback. And the flashback didn't really tell us anything new. I mean, we got some bits, but a lot of it we already knew. In this one, the flashback, it did have more information. It basically confirmed that, I mean, Sarah Fier must have been Dina from a past life, because they are literally the same character. Like, they are quite literally the same character in most respects. So I can definitely see that piece. And my only real gripe with it so much is it was very much like a, hey, we're going to dump exposition on you, and then now we're going to like get to solving the problem. I'm still more of a fan of like, don't just exposition dump on me. Like, let's learn this organically, you know, like maybe break up some of those flashbacks. And again, it's kind of tough because it's a trilogy, right? So
Yeah.
like changing this the way that I would have wanted to see it would have maybe resulted in like other things. Like, for example, it might have been cool if from the start, you know, Dina saw things maybe from the perspective of Sarah Fier, but like with really little context. So she saw how like the town was chasing her, calling her a witch. And she's like, oh shit, I'm seeing things from the witch's perspective. And she's freaking out the whole time. But then by the end of it, it's like, oh shit, she starts to see like more, gets more context. And then she sees about the relationship between Sarah and Hannah, for example. And that kind of becomes...
How would you feel if it was told chronologically?
I honestly, like, I think they would have to do a little more. What I would want is this. I would want an inversion of everything. So you know how it was like, we started with 1994, and then we went to 76, and then we went to 1666 and back to 94. I would have wanted it to be 1666, but leave out a bunch of details. And then give me the middle piece, the summer camp piece. Then give me the 94 piece as like a half and half. Go back to 66 and finish on 94. Like...
That would have been really
interesting.
cool, actually. And I'm sure that just speaks to how much of a movie is really made during editing. Because the way you described it, even though the events are going to be the same, that would be I feel, dramatically different movie.
Yeah.
Kind of to that point, do you think that you could rewatch these movies in a different order?
Yes,
I think you
totally.
could.
Totally.
Kind of achieve that, yeah. Okay.
Check it out. Because you could literally start with the second movie and lose fucking nothing. Like...
That's why I like it so much and why you dislike it. But yeah, you know.
But like, you could literally start with the second movie and then have these people like going to whatever. And then all of a sudden you transition into the first movie, and then you can see like how they got to that point, and then into the third movie where everything gets, you know, finalized. And I mean, granted, yes, that's not the smoothest of things because obviously some editing stuff and whatnot, but I definitely think you could. Because the only thing is this, Sarah Fier not being the villain that needs to be a big reveal. So you can't like blow that at the very beginning. So what you have to do is you have to make her look like a witch as much as you can at the start. And then from there, what you can do is you can then show us, you know, like some more of like what happened and some of the serial killers and the summer camp stuff. And then 1994, where we have our plucky youths. And my thing about it is this, like, well, I'll talk more about it later, but I just feel like in terms of the pacing of the overall trilogy, I have some doubts about that. But we're going to talk about how this ties it up in a little bit. I don't want to get too far ahead. But another thing I did want to talk about really quick is just a super quick one-off. So Sarah was not a witch, but she was willing to become a witch. And how do we feel about that? Maybe even thematically, Nico.
I mean, I genuinely hadn't thought about it until we were, writing the document to prepare for this episode. But like, I feel that it does show some sense of hypocrisy, but I also think it shows a pretty relatable aspect of her humanity. She is someone who is prejudiced against, and there's, hate crimes going on left and right there, and just people being really shitty. And I understand why she did what she did vis-a-vis turning to a witch to sort of get some sort of agency in a world that reviles you. So at the point where she finds out, oh, fuck, no, this is bad. This is real bad. This is real, real, real bad. Like, I would also be like, nope, don't want any of that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I definitely got a lot of like, as we say, we jokingly call it the Vitch, but it's the witch. And I got a lot of vibes from that, like a lot of similarities across the board there.
Mm-hmm.
The only real
Definitely.
question I had was, so she's not a witch, but like she's got a lot of powers that stretch across like the time continuum. Like she can still like show people like by touching her bones, you can like see shit, and just like she maintains some
She's
kind of
Professor
power.
Xavier and also a bloodbender.
I was just like, maybe
Yeah.
it's just like that, traumatized soul or like cursed soul seeking revenge. So like, like that's how she managed to influence things. Because when you leave with a strong emotion, as we've seen in other ghost stories, kind of, you can impact things. But just real quick, Dan, how'd you feel about just Sarah's, witchery or lack thereof in 1666?
I actually agree with what you just said. I think that her powers come from just her extreme hatred, and that just permeates through the generations.
Mhm.
And then I also agree with Nico. And I think that when she was like, nah, fucking, I'm going to become a witch, like it made sense to me. Just, she was driven to that point, and then finds out Solomon made the deal with the devil. And she's like, oh, fuck, hell no. Like, fuck this. And I think that's a very real thing. Like, I don't think she had the time to stop and think, oh, wait, I was going to do this. Oh, let me re-examine my values as a human being. Like, she didn't have, the luxury of doing that. So,
guys, let's halt this literal witch hunt for a moment of introspection, okay?
I mean, we'll see what's really good with the what would you do later, because I do have a double header, so to speak.
Uh-oh.
But I want to touch now on kind of this movie is wrapping it up. And I don't mean it that way.
What?
But
what?
Kind of wrapping up the trilogy here. Wrapping up the trilogy, Nico.
Okay.
How did this movie do as, like tying off the bread bag?
Yo, does anyone actually use those little plastic shits, or do you just like
nope,
twist it up and like tuck that shit under like a real blue-blooded American?
Oh, wait, I use them. I don't reuse them, but I use
Wait,
them.
hang on. Are we talking about the ones that are ties or the ones that are the hard plastic clip with like the little space in between?
The hard plastic joints. Little hard plastic joints.
I don't know. Personally, I'm like I'm a fan of like when it's brand new, I try and be responsible and I use the clip. But after like,
okay, I respect that. We have a historic preservationist over here.
I thought you were going to say respectful. I try to be respectful. I treat that bread nice.
I
treasure treat bread nice because it definitely doesn't treat me nice.
Sorry, Nico. I got some special bread for that too. But nah, I mean it tastes disgusting though, fam. But
a lot of it does.
How do we feel about this as kind of a tying off point to the movie, Just bringing it close to the trilogy, bringing all of us closure, really. How do we feel that this movie did? And I want to start with probably the person who likes these movies the most, Nico.
Yeah, I did enjoy it as a sort of aperitif after the world building of the first two movies. I did really enjoy it, and part of that comes from just how I really appreciated the pacing, in that it was one half one movie, one half the other, with such a pretty, distinct stylistic shift. I think that it is something that just honestly worked really well in terms of this like stylistic presentation anyway.
Got you.
I thought it did a good job. I like how it just wraps all of the historical aspects of the generational kind of, well, I don't quite want to say curse anymore, but witchery that has gone on. I kind of like how near the end, when Dina and Sam are going through Nick Good's house, you see the family tree and you can see like all the different, offspring.
That was a nice reveal.
And then, they also left it up to sequels and extra things at the end with the person grabbing the tome. And I thought it did a pretty decent job. I wasn't like in love with it, but
it's a very young Laura Croft taking the book.
Yeah.
I predictably felt lukewarm about it. I thought that for what they were doing and the direction they wanted to go, it was a finishing point. That was the end of, that kind of haze over the town. That was the end of all the bad stuff. And the town can finally grow and prosper the way that it's kind of meant to. But I felt like there was a lot of wasted potential, which could cloud me a little bit in how I feel about it overall. But I do think as a tying off point, it did tie most things off pretty well. Now, Dan, you talked about someone grabbing that ancient tome of devil worship and magic, and that does leave it open for a cinematic universe. Back when we gave our review of the first movie, I believe, we discussed that there was an opening, for a possibility of a Fear Street kind of universe type deal. Do you want more from Fear Street?
Yeah, I think I do, but I would want to see them done a little bit differently. You know how Star Wars has like the core trilogies, and then they do like spin-offs and things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the spin-offs are like a different genre, so to speak.
Yes.
You've got
Does
like
this
the
mean we're gonna
heist
have a
one.
Fear Street Christmas special?
I hope so. But I think it would be cool to, and Nico kind of mentioned this briefly before, that how 1666 is sort of like a prestige horror kind of. I think it would be cool to have, instead of like direct sequels at the moment anyways, I think it would be cool to have just different iterations of these killers going around, but portray them in different genres of horror. So maybe you have
that'd be fun.
maybe a more defined prestige horror, or I don't know if they could get away with like a cosmic horror. I don't quite know how that could fit in, but maybe it could. I don't know. And just sort of psychological horror, and just really dive into different genres of horror without having to tie it all to a greater story other than, hey, these are, done by the same bloodline or, whatever. But that almost doesn't matter at that point. So I think that would be kind of cool.
I
think you could have easily that scans. I could totally see just a super campy, self-referential series based around Ruby Lane or something. That's just like extremely slasher, just fied, whatever. That's a word. Fuck you.
So I actually do want more from the Fear Street cinematic universe. I'm not going to forget how much I like this going into it. And I think for me, part of my major...
Why you sound like you're about to break up with someone, bro?
Bro, because this shit broke my heart.
Oof.
And like, I really liked it a lot at the start, and things just didn't go the way that I thought they would. And, I lost interest a lot of the time. And
haven't we all been there, lads?
I couldn't commit anymore. No, but I mean, really, I liked it at the start, and I felt like the more they wrote and the more they revealed, the more I didn't like it as much, or I was like, I wouldn't have done that. I would have gone a different direction or something else like that. So I would be interested to see more that weren't like 3 parts. I feel like if they came out with just like a one-shot movie from start to finish, I'd probably like it a lot. I probably would like it a lot.
And I mean, the first movie almost was a one-shot.
It almost was.
I mean, like if all I ever did was watch the first movie, like I would be satisfied. Like it sufficiently wrapped things up enough. Obviously it didn't finish the story and everything, but like it didn't do it in a way that I was like, oh, well, now I have to watch the second one. Like, fuck, it's not out yet or whatever. Like,
yeah,
if I only watched the first one, I would have been okay with that too,
Yeah. And real quick, and I know this is kind of a moot point for me, but just to ask around the pod, now that we've seen all three, which of the three was your favorite?
Definitely the second.
I think the first for
It's
me.
the first for me. So now let's take it to the what would you do? And I have a double header here because remember, we've got two movies within this one. We've got 1666 and we've got 1994. So first off, 1666, right? If there is one thing you could change that the town did to try and, get rid of the evilness or whatever else, what would you do? What would you do different? Something that any character did that you would change just a little bit.
I would have my time machine and I would introduce them all to 4chan and get them to shut the fuck up about their stupid shit that they're upset about and reveal to them that they're so much worse than what's going on in First Corinthians or whatever.
I see. You would use the hacker known as 4chan. So,
Yes.
Dan, what would you do in 1666 that would be any different from what anyone else did?
Any different than anybody else? Can I take a pass for now?
Ooh.
Can you
I'll
come
come
back to me? Because I
I'll come back
got
to
to
you, I'll
think
come
about
back to
this
you.
one.
So, from my perspective, probably the number one thing that I would have done if I was Solomon Goode, you know how he had to choose someone to, kill off? I would have totally picked that jackass. What was his name? Thomas?
Yeah.
Yeah, he
The
would have been
drunk.
the one I would have picked to kill off. I think that was his brother. I know that was his brother, but to use the parlance of the time, your brother is a louse. You really
Oof.
need to
Toss thou bite your thumb at thee.
I do. I would have offed him. Think about it. The pastor was like a centerpiece of that village, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And if the pastor had been there, everything would have been, not everything, but I think things would have been a lot more chill. You kill the town drunk, okay, fine, I feel like there's ways you could have done it. And even the deal with the devil, okay, fine, you can have this dude. I mean, you can still come kill him. There's nothing stopping you from killing this dude. As soon as you cast the spell on him, you could totally do that. Because he ended up killing the preacher anyways. So it's not like that's a strike against you. So that's what I would have done different, bro. I would have just sacrificed one person because I'm going to keep it real with you, right? I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm not about no devil worship. I'm not about that life. But if you've already made that choice, I mean, to be honest, the whole town die or one person die? If we were looking
Yeah.
at this in a different context, let's say there was some kind of bomb and you sent one brave soul to go neutralize it or whatever. And that one person knew they were going to die, but they were doing it for the whole village. I feel like that's honorable. And that's how, again, you don't need to lay everything on them right then, but
It's honorable, and also fuck that one guy in particular.
yeah, fuck Tom, he was a shit. But Dan, your pass has been passed. Uno reverse, back to you.
Oh, no. So I think I would have gone to talk to the old crone
Agreed.
because I feel like she is the outsider or been ostracized from the village maybe. But I feel like she would know something. Like the old ladies who live on the outskirts of the village, they always know some shit.
Yeah.
I can't remember if the village thinks that she knows about witchcraft or not, or if we only know that after they find the tome and everything. I don't quite remember. But regardless, I feel like I would have checked in with her.
Okay. All right. Now for the second part, we know how the movie ends. We know how things come to a conclusion. Pick a character and change something about them. They could be in any movie. You can even stop somebody from being killed, but change one thing to kind of change the flow of the movie. Now that person's alive, maybe the ending changes a little bit or things are a little bit different. So I'm going to start. And the person that I'm going to save is Kate, because Kate has a really bright future ahead of her. She excels in a lot of stuff. She's the person who knows a lot of the drugs to take to kill yourself, come back to life, and just have a great time. Her death to me was one that I thought for sure they were going to prevent, and they didn't. And I just feel like her being around would naturally engage Henry / shit. What's his name in 1994? I got his 1666 name
It's
stuck in my head. Josh.
Josh, yeah.
So I think that would naturally involve Josh a little bit more. I felt like Josh had a more prominent role in the first movie, and then he kind of like fell a little bit by the sidelines a little bit. I know he had his moment towards the end of this movie, but I felt like that would have brought me more Josh into the movie, you know? And I also just didn't want Kate to die. I felt like she had a future. So that was what I would do, and that's kind of what I would change and the outcome I would want. Dan, how about you?
Wait, so is this as in like to change to make me enjoy the movie better, or to change if I was in the movie?
No, something you would do to make the movie better for you.
Oh, okay.
Like, what would you
Got
change?
you. I would have liked to see more Ziggy in modern day. I wanted, kind of like what Nico had said before, I wanted her to kill Nick Good, but I also wanted there to be more of that dynamic between them and a little bit more. I mean, I don't quite want to say backstory because obviously we got an entire movie of her backstory.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see more of, aside from the events of that movie, I wanted to see how the aftermath of that was relevant to her character, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because in the first movie, and I think we even mentioned it in the first review, like she has all these different alarm clocks set for all sorts of different times of the day. And she's really, really paranoid about things, which kind of makes sense. But I also wanted to see that play out into something. And then sort of at the end when Nick and her sort of reunite, I guess you could call it, and they do the carry move on him. Like that scene I thought could have been cool, but it just was kind of weird because Nick just kind of walked up and was like, "Oh, Ziggy, you're here." And it's like, well, yeah, but shouldn't you realize that's a bad thing? Like you're chasing down these people in the middle of a mall and Ziggy's just happens to be there. Like what? But I don't know. I would have liked to see more of her character development and stuff with her.
Quick note on that, actually. I really, 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 really felt not bad, because bad isn't the right word, but you could tell from like Nick's expression, he really didn't even want her to be there. And he was like, oh shit, like you're here? I mean, I know he was the big bad, but like, I don't think he ever wanted anything bad to happen to her. Like,
not to her.
Yeah.
I think in kind of like a weird way, he picks a person, but he didn't pick her. He could have picked her again, right? He could have picked her at any point in time. But Nico, your turn. Your turn, sir.
So I actually don't have any changes that I would make. I really did enjoy this one. Not as much as the other two, but I want to turn it back to you, Justin, because there was one character in her. Yeah, you weren't fucking expecting that. What's really good
Uno
though?
reverse.
Uno reverse, bitch.
Jesus Christ, you hit me with the wild card.
Yeah. So there was a character that you mentioned in the first review that you really liked. I forget his name, the janitor, but could you?
Martin. His name is Martin.
Thank you. Could you elucidate our dear, lovely listeners as to what you were disappointed in with this one and his iteration?
Yo, everything. Oh my God. They fucking relegated Martin from like a mysterious dude to at the end of the movie, he's selling fucking bootleg MP3 players. What the fuck? Are you serious? Are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? I say that again for emphasis. Are you serious? Come on, man. Like Martin at the start, he looked like he was like, even Nick Good's like, the prodigal son returns. And then Martin's like, here, take my business card. You might need this. And it's just like, it's all very mysterious. And it all has the air of like, you know, he knows more than he's letting. Nope, he's just there for comedic relief. Like, nope, Martin's just there because, yeah, we needed another guy. That's basically what it was. You're telling me this dude, who by the way, is just like a regular ass dude, regular ass member of society. They pull up on him in a cop car. Yo, you want to kill Nick Good? And I'm like, the fuck? Why would he? Why? Because Nick Good framed him up for graffiti and now he wants to kill him? What? That doesn't make any sense. This dude is out here risking his life for what? For what exactly? Can anybody tell me? He has no connection to any other character. There's nothing that he wants.
Maybe he's trying to smash Ziggy.
Maybe. Me too. But the point, I'm not in that movie. I'm not fighting the serial killers. So the point being is, I straight up, like, do not know. Like, I just do not know what the fuck the point of his inclusion was. And I am sorely disappointed in that because I personally thought it was going to kind of be a situation where, like, he was going to be kind of more involved in it. Even in the second one, we might have even seen him as a kid at the summer camp. And because he's old enough to have been there, He would have been younger, but he could have been there. And, we could have seen him and he could have been in this one. He'd be like, yeah, I actually did a lot of research. They had the opportunity to take like a stereotype and turn it on its head, and they fucking didn't. The man is at the end of the movie selling bootleg MP3s. That's fucking insulting. That's why I was disappointed with the character of Martin.
I do agree with pretty much everything you
Yeah,
said there. I was
same.
kind of disappointed in his role as well.
I'm sorry, the fire was hot. But we're gonna move on to the
Hey, man.
to the fucking critic review here. All right. So how do you guys think this movie did? You think it did well? Not so well? How do you feel about it?
I'm going to guess it did moderately well with critics and really well with audience.
Nico, how about you?
I'm gonna guess that it did moderately well with critics and moderately well with audiences.
Okay.
So this movie is sitting at a 90% fresh from
Holy
critics
shit!
Oh,
and a 77% audience score. What I want now is this. Just kind of give me your thoughts and, what do you rate it? Shoot from the hip, Nico.
So I definitely had some issues with this, as I think is clear, even though I do really like this movie. There were still some things that, bore my scrutiny as well as my other two co-hosts here. But all in all, I had a fun time. I would watch this again. I would watch all three of these again. I'm gonna give it, despite its not quite living up to the potential that I thought it had, I'm gonna give it a 73.
Okay. Dan, how about you?
if you recall in the previous installment, I had said that I enjoyed part 2, but not as much as part 1. That's how I feel about this compared to part 2. I enjoyed it, but not as much as part 2. So I'm agreeing with you a lot, Nico, today. 73 for me.
Great minds.
So I'm gonna keep myself concise here. Gonna circumcise my thoughts as it was because
Wow.
I can't be, you know what I'm saying, I can't let the whole thing out like that. So I didn't like this very much. Reason being is because it was predictable. It was not, I thought personally the way the story was told let down the story itself. And lastly, to be extremely blunt, I found what was happening in 1666 more engaging than what was happening in 1994 in this one. So I just didn't really like it. I felt like there were a lot of questions and a lot of things that the movie built up. Again, I'm not going to get into like strenuous detail, but like it kind of felt to me on a personal level, and peek behind the curtain. I talked with Dan a little bit about this yesterday and he gave me a little bit of elucidation, but I still feel like, you know, the whole, just the generic kind of curse that's on Shady Side, I kind of struggled a little bit with that at times because I thought that it was like a general witch's curse, but then they seemed to make it a little more specific with Solomon.
Remember, I already told you what
Maybe
it was.
What happened?
Don't you remember?
Oh my fucking God. So, and that was just like, I don't know, that was one thing. I thought that how could you go from that conclusion in that first movie, which, you know, like you blew your load, like you had so many likable characters that just died. And that made the first movie really great. But then I felt like this movie, you know, retroactively suffered from that, because how cool would it have been if there were more people in the mall? Martin didn't have to be there because he had no reason to be there. But let's say maybe that's where all their friends were. They all came for one last showdown at the mall, and we got a lot more fighting. We got a lot more, like, people could die there, right? They're actually dying for a cause, though. They're dying to save the town. Like, it's tough for me because I liked those characters. I liked the first movie so much. And you know what my final thought is? They should have just broken this up. Making it one conjoined train of thought got too messy. One thing they proved to me in this is that they knew how to do, it's not a tribute, but they know how to echo the different subgenres. They know how to pull kind of like a slasher a la Friday the 13th. They know how to give a little wink and a nod to the witch and throw some prestige in there. They know how to do something, you know, kind of honestly screamish and all that other stuff. So if you can do that, then make those movies. This could have been really cool as kind of and again, this was 3 movies, but if this was like separate movies, and this is another way you could take it to add on to our discussion from before, but if these were separate movies, imagine if like, like maybe we saw the summer camp one first, and we had that background already. And then we went into the first movie, and at the end of the first movie, we saw Ziggy from the end of the second movie,
That'd be a good reveal.
That would have almost been a moment like, like when you saw Luke at the end of, the second new Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Would have been like, oh shit, there's a character we know and love. Or there were so many moments for that. And that's why I'm like, guys, like, you had such a good thing in your hands and it slipped through. It slipped through. So I have no choice but to give this. I mean, it does what it does. I found it to be substandard. I'm going to give it a 57. So now, is this going to get a recommendation?
I would recommend it.
Bear in mind, I do think it's this. We are recommending it based on if you have already put the time into the first 2 movies.
Okay. I mean, if you've already put the time into 2, yeah, finish it out. If I were to base the trilogy off of this movie, I would probably say no. But I don't know. It's hard to answer just because of how it fits into the whole trilogy. Again, if we're assuming you've already seen the first 2, yes, I recommend it to at least finish it out. I thought it was all right. I thought it was relatively good. So, yeah.
I would say that if you put the time into the first 2, see this, spare yourself. But holy shit, if there is anyone out there listening who has only seen the first one, for the love of God, stop. Like,
hey, second one was great.
IMO, stop. Okay? Like, just stop. And if I could, like, send myself a message to the past, first off, I would tell myself about some incredibly lucrative stocks. But secondly, I would tell myself, yo, Fear Street Part 2 ain't it. Fear Street Part 3 is literally Part 3 to the Part 2. Think on that, Just. And I would just stop at Part 1. I would just stop. Just stop. Don't let it get to the part where Sarah gets possessed at the end of the first one. Just, they're having a nice date. Movie over. That's it. And that's a great fucking movie right there. That's a great fucking movie right there. And Fear Street Part 1 will always hold a special place right here in my heart because I fucking love Part 1 and nothing will ever take that away from me. So yes, it's a recommendation if you've put the time into the first 2, but Golden Seal, 1, 2, 3, no. All right, then. If you think I'm wrong, or if you think Nico's right, or vice versa, or inverse, or you think Dan's cool.
And Dan doesn't get a fucking take.
Fuck me, I guess.
Again.
Like I said, if you think Dan's cool, drop us a line. We're on Facebook, Don't Open That Door. We're also on Instagram and Twitter at DOTD Horror. Also, check out our new website. That is dotdhorror.com. Till then, remember, keep yourself safe, keep your stories concise, and as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.